Hi, welcome to the newest episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adeep Mahmood. Where's my normal co-host, Hunter? And today we're going to be talking about some Orioles, some Virginia Tech athletics, some coaching news actually as well, and then we're going to talk about some talk about the playoffs. So, so the Orioles, we're going to talk. I'm going to quickly talk about the Orioles. They made a trade a few days ago. They've sent their number 16th overall prospect, Daryl Hernandez, who's this 21-year-old shortstop in Double A right now. They sent him to the Oakland Athletics in return for left-handed pitcher Cole Irvin and another a pitcher in high A ball. High A ball. So basically, this tells me a few things. One, this is how good this Orioles farm system is. Daryl Hernandez. A lot of people are saying he was a sleeper. He could be a sleeper top 100 if he had a really good season. He has that use. He has that speed and power combination. But between Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday, Jordan Westbrook, Joey Ortiz, who you already have at the major league level, it's really hard to find space for him. So they were able to move a prospect like him for a guy like Cole Irvin, who, if you take who had, I think, a 3.98 ERA last year, but he's had two straight seasons where he's pitched over 175 innings. So he had 178 innings about 2 years ago, 180 innings last season. This is a guy who pitches to contact, doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but he's a strike thrower, pitches from the left side. He's a reverse splits guy. He does better against the right-handed batters, but also because of the left field wall at Camden Yards, if he does struggle a little bit against lefties, the left field wall is going to make some of those home runs fly balls. So I thought this was a good move for them because it's like, oh, it's Jesus Luzardo, it's Pablo Lopez who was traded to the Twins, or it's these big Nick Corbin Burns, it's these other guys that Orioles fans and baseball fans were targeting, but no one was talking about Cole Irvin. But this is a guy that's a solid number 3 guy. But this is a guy that could be a mid-rotation guy. This is what the Orioles need to do, because Michael Elias did say in an interview today that Grayson Rodriguez, their top pitching prospect, the expectation is he's going to start in the opening day rotation, probably near the back end, but he's going to be in the opening day rotation. So you're starting to see it's like a quiet move in the sense it's not like a big splash, but you're getting Grayson Rodriguez this year to debut probably at the start of the season. John Means is coming back mid-season. That's going to be like another free agent right there. So this Orioles pitching depth, like if you don't have 10, I think the number should be around, if you have like 10 starting pitchers, like obviously you have to have 5 to start, but you want to have another 5, 6 as depth. If you have 10 pitchers, you're good, and they're having solid depth there. And then also, bless you, also for there's 3 top 100 lists that came out. The Orioles have 10 prospects, individual prospects combined in all those 3 lists in the top 100. So MLB top 100, they have 8 prospects. Baseball America, they have 8 prospects in the top 100. And it just goes to show how exciting this young system is. And by the way, a lot of these guys are Double A or Triple A. So there's a lot of good news from the Orioles front. And like I said, they went out and got a mid-rotation starter for their 5th best middle infield prospect, a guy that, like Hunter, if this was national system, this guy might be a top 7 prospect, top 7 or top 8 prospect. That's how good this guy is. But the Orioles system is so good. He's almost the 20th best prospect. So it goes to show how good he is. And we're going to move on to it's a Raven Steelers, but also coaching news as well. So obviously what were your thoughts on some of the coaching hires in the past week? You're muted.
Overall coaching hires, wasn't surprised that the Panthers went with Frank Reich. They want a more offensive mind down there. Curious to see what they do at quarterback. I don't think you're going to bring Sam Darnold back. That's going to be an attractive option, I think, for a lot of free agent quarterbacks and potentially in the draft. I understand people are upset what happened with Steve Wilkes. I get it. There's not a lot of minority coaches in the league, Indeed. I'm pretty sure it's just Todd Bowles, Mike Tomlin, and Robert Saleh.
Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniels is technically half.
Is he biracial, right?
Yeah, he's biracial.
Okay, yeah. So if you count Mike McDaniel, I get it. There's a problem with NFL teams not hiring minority coaches. Wilkes did a good job down the stretch. He had the Panthers in playoff contention for most of that season after he took over. But I do think he's going to land a job very quickly, whether it's a coordinator job or a position job, something like that. And I do think at some point he could become a head coach again. I just think they went with someone who had more experience, someone who's actually led a team to the playoffs a couple more
Someone who
times.
played for them, someone who played for the
He
Panthers.
played in '95, I believe, right?
Yeah, he was the first ever quarterback to start for the Panthers. Now he's the head coach.
Yeah, and that's awesome. He's also had a proven track record of doing well with quarterbacks. So I think that's a strong hire. If you're the Panthers, and I think they are going to go out and get another quarterback. I know the Texans, I think, are zeroing in on D'Amico Ryans. I think that will be a great hire. That will be the fifth minority head coach, in the NFL. The Denver Broncos, I don't really know what they're doing. They kind of
it might be David Shaw's apparently one of the finalists for that job, so it could be him. So that's another minority coach, but I doubt if he gets it. But who knows?
They're kind of just like circling like just other candidates and stuff like that. Did I miss any hires from this week, Edie?
Mike LaFleur, Rams offensive coordinator.
Yeah, saw that. Yeah, I mean that's him teaming up with McVay makes sense. McVay he's I don't know if he wants to hand over the play calling duties to someone else, but it would make sense considering that he did call the plays for the Jets. In New York, though, I think this time he'll have a little bit of a better quarterback with this one. But I think all eyes are really on Sean Payton. What's he going to do? Is he going to go to Denver? Is Houston maybe going to take another swing at him? He interviewed in Carolina, Arizona. That's a big question. Who's going to get hired there? My opinion, I think Peyton's probably going to go back to Fox. Are any of these jobs really that attractive besides the Broncos one? No. I mean, I don't even know if is that attractive anyway. I mean, maybe playing with Kyler, but Kyler Murray's not going to be ready for the start of next season. He had a couple really brutal surgeries.
And who knows if they trade a Hopkins?
Yeah, that's another great point as well. I mean, Peyton, can he fix Russell Wilson if he gets the job? There's been a lot of rumors back and forth that he wants the power for everything, and there could be a power struggle with this, and then Peyton denied it. I don't really know what's going on there. He's probably going to have a second interview at some point, but I think it makes more sense for him to just take another year off and see what jobs open up next season because maybe the Chargers job opens up, maybe the Cowboys open up if they have a bad season. So I think it's better for him to just take another season off. And yeah, he'll still be under contract, but I just don't think any of these openings make sense for him right now. But what are your overall thoughts on the coaching carousel?
Yeah, so one, we're going to talk about the Jets offensive coordinator situation, but I do want to bring up Bill O'Brien to the Patriots as their OC. I understand the reason for it. He was there in Alabama, and Mac Jones.
I forgot about that. Apologies.
But I mean, whatever. Yeah, it's like Bill. It's like that's not going to move the needle too much. I mean, that was great that they went out and got a guy who's experienced with Mac Jones, but you also got to keep in mind he's not the best. He didn't leave on the best terms with Hopkins, and if DeAndre Hopkins is traded, I saw reports that it was the Patriots and the Ravens were two teams that were interested. I'll get to the Ravens part later, but for the Patriots, I can't imagine DeAndre Hopkins with no trade clause accepting a trade to the Patriots with the way that it ended in with Houston. So it's good and bad in certain ways. I think Sean Payton, you're right. I think it's better for him to take another year at Fox Sports because who knows, maybe those jobs that could open up next year would be more appealing. D'Amico Ryans is going to be interesting. I will say I understand he did play for Houston, but you do have to consider with D'Amico Ryans, the Texans brought in David Culley as a head coach, African American, fired him after a year. They brought in Lovie Smith, another African American, fired him after a year. If you are D'Amico Ryans, you would be the third African American coach for Houston. I don't know if Houston is the right place for him, but hey, if he wants to go coach there, that team has the lowest expectation out of all these jobs. So it's gonna be interesting there. When it comes to I don't have a beat for the Cardinals head coaching position. I don't have Denver is pretty interesting. Colts are pretty interesting. I can't imagine they go to Jeff Saturday for that one. I know Eric
Jim
Bieniemy
Irsay's got
interviewed.
to stop with this stuff. Like he's already getting a second interview. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Apparently, the reports that the front office really does not want Jeff Saturday to be the head coach, but Irsay's kind of been pushing for it. Like, you can't hire him there. There's so many better candidates out there. No offense to Jeff Saturday. That would just be a really stupid move of them to hire him.
Yeah, and then I know they're going to interview Eric Bieniemy, but I don't think they'll get. I don't think he'll get it. A little bit more Eric Bieniemy later, but the Panthers with Frank Reich. I mean, it makes sense. Like I said, Frank Reich was the first quarterback to ever start for the Panthers. It makes sense for him to be the head coach. Apparently, he's trying to get Vic Fangio to be the defense coordinator there, so it's gonna be interesting what they do there. I do think it's gonna be interesting if they do target a receiver. And I'll get Do you who do you think they could target? Because Will Levis was always rumored to them, but do you think they could go for a Will Levis type quarterback for the Panthers, or do you think it's gonna be someone more mobile?
I think someone more mobile. I feel like Frank Reich likes a mobile quarterback. So, are you assuming they would go for one in the draft, or do you think they would maybe
Yeah,
go for
I
someone?
think draft. I think draft. He wants to probably develop a quarterback and then spend the money around him. I think that's what Frank Reich will probably do.
That would make sense. Yeah, I mean Levis, to a degree, but maybe someone like Anthony Richardson, he's mobile. He will maybe fit the offense a little bit. He's a bit raw compared to some of the other quarterbacks in this draft, but he has the potential to be a good quarterback in this league if he's developed properly. And Reich has done a good job with developing quarterbacks.
Yeah, and you got if you put Anthony like what Anthony Richardson could be as a quarterback, like he Cam Newton type quarterback, like big arm, big leg, quarterback power. There's a lot you could do there, and then you have DJ. You have the receiving core that they have. I mean, yeah, there is a lot that could be done there. I mean, it would be probably a good place for him to be. Better than the Colts, I think, better than other team situations, but it is going to be interesting. So I do want to touch on the Ravens offensive coordinator search. So they have so since last week, they have interviewed. It was revealed yesterday they've interviewed Todd Monken. I don't mind that one. I know he's on the older side, but the thing about Todd Monken is he went from an air raid offense in the NFL. He went to more of a ground and pound, like run game, play action, complementary football type situation, which I think would fit really well with what the Ravens are trying to do with what Harbaugh said at the press conference. So I think he could be someone interesting for the Ravens.
He was in the NFL before, right? Who was he there for again?
2 years. I think he was with the Buccaneers for 3-4 years when James was there, and then he was with the Browns for that one season with Freddie Kitchens. But
Right.
We don't know if Freddie Kitchens was calling the plays or Bonkin was calling the plays. So he mainly, you are bringing him in for an interview because of what he did at Georgia, which is pretty much use the run game, use heavy formations, use the athletic ability of tight ends, which if you're John Harbaugh, it might be appealing. And the fact is, Monken does know how to work with a team that has a great defense and can play complementary football. It's not the exciting choice, but it might be the practical choice. But today they've requested an interview with Eric Bieniemy. I've seen a lot of Ravens fans excited about him. I'm going to say something really unpopular. He would be the least appealing out of all.
Wow. Interesting take from you. Why is that?
Because, well, first of all, here's the thing. You got a defensive coordinator that's 34 years old. You got a special teams coordinator that's 38 years old. And you have John Harbaugh, who's 60. Okay, so for me, yeah, he doesn't look 60, but he is. But he's getting up there in age. My point being is, I want to have the offensive coordinator work well with the defensive coordinator, and I want the special teams coordinator to work well. So I want those three positions to have some synergy, and having your offensive coordinator be 19 years older than your defensive coordinator, and maybe because here's the thing, the Ravens are young and they are analytical. I don't know about Eric Bieniemy's analytical knowledge. I don't know if he's too much. I don't know if he's like closer to Tony La Russa when it comes to he's very old school, and I want someone a little bit more analytical, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons. The second one is I think there's some smoke and mirrors with him. I think that he is very much like, yes, he knows football, but at the same time, who's his boss? Andy Reid. Who does he have? He had Tyreek Hill. He has Patrick Mahomes. He has Travis Kelsey. A lot of these pieces contributed to the success. So to me, would he be a safe choice for Baltimore? Sure. But at the end of the day, you're not bringing in Andy Reid. You're not bringing in Mahomes. You're not like, it's almost like you're trying to move like,
it's like you're trying to run a different offense with Lamar
yeah,
Jackson. He's probably never
yes,
run in life, right?
yeah, yeah, kind of like that. But it's kind of like there's like a piano in your house that you really like, but the piano is a part of a larger room. So you're
Okay.
basically moving a piano to another room, but that room is not designed like it was in the previous room. So you're almost like taking situation A to situation B and anticipating things are going to be the same, but you're just changing a few things here and there. And then the other thing is, I would prefer someone who's more experienced in the passing game. And Eric Bieniemy was a running back in the NFL. He was a running back coach for a while, and then became an offensive coordinator. So I feel like if they were to bring in Eric Bieniemy, it would be he knows a little bit about the passing game, and I'm pretty sure he knows a little bit more than Greg Roman, but he's still more run focused, and I want someone who's more pass focused. And then when I look at the candidates that the Ravens do have requested an interview or have interviewed, one of the reasons I think that there are guys that fit the age range that I want. The more familiarity with analytics, the more familiarity with some more of a modern passing offense, like a Zach Robinson, like a Justin Outen, or a Dave Canales, right? Someone like that, and even someone like the Rams assistant coach, running backs coach. I don't know if they've interviewed him, but someone like Thomas Brown would be more appealing than Eric Bieniemy because he is on the younger side. He is more analytical. Yes, he is run focused, and he wouldn't be my top choice. But the thing about Thomas Brown is he's Sean McVay's second right hand man. So if you are trusted by Sean McVay when it comes to the offense, and he was given more duties in the passing game, I would feel a lot more confident with it. So to me, I like the idea of Zach Robinson because I feel like Zach Robinson kind of fits more with Mike McDonald and Chris Horton. And I think Harbaugh was looking at Harbaugh, I think, wanted Matt Weiss, the former Michigan offense coordinator, to be the next OC. But because he has that similar resume to Mike McDonald. But obviously, if you know the recent headlines, you know that Matt Weiss probably is not available. So Zach Robinson, to me, has that Matt Weiss type mold. So to make this whole long explanation short, I want someone who's more of a pass-centric offense, someone who's younger, someone who I could see was more synergy with Mike McDonald and and Chris Horton. So it's nothing against Eric Bieniemy. It's just I want someone more analytical. I want someone who's more innovative. I want someone who's more focused on the passing game, and then can learn the run game rather than and then you have the whole thing with how much of the Chiefs is Eric Bieniemy, how much of it is the personnel, how much of it is Andy Reid, and then there's some other bad stuff, like other rumors about how he talks to players, like his leadership style. So there's some stuff I feel like I kind of approach it more in a different way. So I guess it's nothing against Eric Bieniemy. It's just I think I want a certain type of coach, and Eric Bieniemy just doesn't fit that. I think when the Frank Reich thing was there, saying they want to interview Frank Reich, I would say the same thing about Frank Reich. I'm saying the same thing about Byron Leftwich. So it's not just a bias against one person. It's I just have a mold that I want to see them go after, and unless those guys say no and you do have to go with someone safer like a Monken or a Bieniemy, then I'm fine with that. But go for someone younger, and if they say no, then go with someone older. So that's kind of how my logic is. But as a Steelers fan, like, who do you think the Ravens should target at offense coordinator? Like, what are the elements that they should be looking at?
Someone I think, yeah, as you said, a more modern NFL offense. I think, that stuff with Greg Roman, it can work when, Lamar's coming into the league, but I feel like it's time to unleash some of those playmakers a little bit. Mark Andrews, J.K. Dobbins,
I feel
Lamar,
like
great runner. I'll say that, great runner. But I think it's time to really unleash him as a passer. See if he can make some even more improvements. Because do you really think, like, just sitting there these last few seasons, that they can go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs in a playoff game? Or even right now, if Lamar is healthy, it's tough. Go into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals. I know they almost did that with Tyler Huntley, but it's still a daunting task. Or go up to Buffalo to beat Josh Allen. It's just those offenses are more modern, I think, and they score at least 30 points a game. And I think that's, to win in today's NFL, you kind of have to be in that ballpark, right? You're scoring 4 touchdowns a game, maybe more than that. And I think it's time for the Ravens to go after someone who, maybe doesn't have as much experience, calling plays yet, but someone who has been in an offense under a coach who has experience with these top offenses that can really unlock Lamar. Assuming he does come back, I think he probably will at this rate.
yeah.
But that's what I'm looking for as well. And then I think that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and then also we'll just end it on this quick note here. But like going back to Hopkins, one of the things is the Ravens could use a receiver, and DeAndre Hopkins is 30. Like if you look at the Ravens track record, when did they get Steve Smith? When he was 31, 32 years old. When did they get Anquan Bolden? When he was 30, right? Derek Mason when he was 30. So I could see a situation where they are going to address the receiver room. But again, I mean, it is going to be one of these things where you have to deal with Lamar's extension, because that's going to free up some money that you could go and get DeAndre Hopkins or Mike Evans. You have to go get a offensive coordinator. I feel like they're going to get through a lot of that done by March. I think that you have to, because you still have to prepare for the draft. You got the Senior Bowl coming up, so I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about who the next offensive coordinator is. But I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I could see, like, I know a lot of people are laughing at DeAndre Hopkins, but look, it wouldn't be the first time the Ravens traded with the Cardinals in order to get a receiver who's 30 years old, 6'1", over 210 pounds. They did it with Bolden. They could very well do it with Hopkins. And here's the thing with the Ravens: when they'll often try to trade for a player the first time around and not get him, and then the second time around, the second or third time, they'll get him at that point. Now, it's different teams in this situation between the Texans and the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are also in the NFC. And like I said, you go to like, if it's mainly the Ravens or the Patriots, DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to waive his no trade clause to be in a Bill O'Brien offense. So it is going to be interesting what they do there. But before we talk about the NFL playoffs, let's just briefly talk about the Virginia Tech Hokie Athletics. Men's basketball, 2 straight wins against Duke and against Syracuse. Fontel Mines 2-year extension. So there's a lot of good news. Like, what were your thoughts on this week or so on athletics?
I think the basketball team just saved their season, at least for now. That win against Duke is a quadrant 1 win now. You needed to have that. You blew out Syracuse last night. I always love beating Jim Boeheim and his 5,000 kids that play for his program. That was, and they shot the 3 better than they have all year. And that's the thing. They shoot from 3 like that in that game, but in some of their other losses, like Boston College and a couple other ones, they couldn't hit a 3 to save their life. Clemson as well, down in Clemson. It's just very unfortunate that some of those losses could be wins right now, but they've saved their season. They have a big game next week, I think, against Miami.
Miami on 31st.
I don't know how good Miami is this year. I think they're not that good from what I recall. But, that's another one they can hopefully win. They just have to keep getting this back on track. They've won these last 2 in a row at Castle. Being at home helps a lot, but you got to start winning on the road now. That's the thing. They have not won a road game in the ACC all year yet. They're winless. All 3 of their ACC wins: North Carolina, Duke, and Syracuse at home at Castle Coliseum. Got to show that you can win on the road. They're not out of the hole yet. They still have okay odds, but you got to start stringing some more wins together here. Hunter Couture has been awesome. It sucks that Rodney Rice has been out, but MJ Collins was great. Camden had a really good game against Syracuse. They're starting to build this step by step right now, which is nice. Great to see Fontel Mines get that 2-year extension and a nice pay raise. I saw on the tech board, someone was saying that he got 2 big Power 5 offers, and that made Tech actually want to pay him a bit more. He has been one of their best recruiters over these last couple of years. So really nice to see him get a much deserved extension. I think he's going to be huge on the trail for them going forward.
Yeah, so no, I agree. I think that like it was very clear that so Miami is 16-5 this season. They're 7-4 conference play.
Okay, so that's still a big game then.
Yeah. So and then obviously and then they got the second game against UVA in a week from now. But yeah, so like Fontel Mines, great, good recruiter. I mean, if like he's been the best recruiter. I think it was great getting that extension in. I mean, I think he was definitely instrumental in getting Elite Jennings, getting to him to here. So that was great to see from him. It is interesting, but because it's a 2-year extension, that we are going to see if these guys do recruit well, it's going to be a 2-3 year extensions for these guys. So it's good to as a fan, it's going to be interesting to see that. The basketball team, I mean, look, Hunter Couture comes back and he just moves the ball really well. He is an important piece to this offense. Hopefully Rodney Rice is healthy again. But I mean, this team is definitely this team started off slow in ACC play last year. That they were able to make massive comeback. You can't always bet on that, but this is a team that you're right. Like they can shoot the lights out. They can shoot the lights out really well, but they can also be really ice cold. And if they can get more consistent, yeah, they can definitely play with the big boys a little bit here. But it's going to be the next week or so. It's going to be really interesting to see how far they go on that front. So now let's talk about the NFL playoffs. So we had before we talk about the conference championship games today, let's talk about the games last week. For me, it just goes to show for the Bills, can Dorsey, is it that Dable's better than Dorsey? Is it that you need multiple weapons? Where do you think this Bills where do you think this, because the Bills did not look good. They did not look good in that game. Where do you think it was?
I think if you noticed all year, when Josh Allen plays like Superman, they don't lose. But when he's anything but that, they lose. I know it's kind of a cop-out, elite quarterback, but you also do need other things to win playoff games. You have to run the ball. I know it's a little bit of an old cliche. You got to have a good running game. Mike Singletary, no offense to him, he's okay, but he's not like that top guy. Dawson Knox, good tight end. Stephon Diggs, good wide receiver. Who outside of Stephon Diggs is making plays? Isaiah McKenzie, they have the Cole Beasley. They have another wide receiver. They have another wide receiver I'm forgetting. Go ahead.
Gabe Davis.
Yeah, Gabriel Davis. Sure, not bad options, but is there like a true number 2 guy behind Diggs in that offense? No, I don't think so.
Would you say that the Bills, like their receiving room, like if you count the receivers and tight ends, it's like a pitching rotation has like a really good ace and then like 4 mid-level starters?
I would say that's pretty fair. I think Dawson Knox, though, is one of the better tight ends in football. I will say that. I think he's definitely a top 10 tight end in this league, maybe argue a little higher than that. But outside of him and Stephon Diggs, there's just not much there. And then when you ask Josh Allen to be Superman every game, he's not going to be able to do that. He didn't look that good against the Dolphins. He didn't look good here against the Bengals. And I also think the Bills defense needs a little bit of work as well. Tremaine Edmonds, he's going to be a free agent. I think they have a couple from their secondary. They're going to be free agents. Leslie Frazier's contract is up. That's going to be a big offseason now. And especially because Josh Allen's contract kicks in. He's making $45 million starting next season. It's going to get a lot tougher to improve that team now that he's not making 10, 11, 12 million a season. But you need to have a good running game. You got to have your quarterback play well, and you got to have a stout defense. The Bills have not had that in the Josh Allen era yet, and that's why they have not returned to a Super Bowl for the first time since the Jim Kelly era, basically.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, their main problems. I don't think it's anything because of Sean McDermott or anything, but I do think it's a combination of Allen can't be Superman every game, the play calling, and them not having as many playmakers as they probably should.
And you're right. It's like roster construction with the Bills. It's basically the roster construction. A lot of people have hyped up, well, It's like, this is why you should get your quarterback and receiver. Look at what Stephon Diggs did to Josh Allen. Okay, great. Now take Stephon Diggs away from Josh Allen and see what happens, right? And you get results like that. So it's like, so really it's tricky because it's sort of like, yeah, you do need a receiver, but if you overpay for one receiver and you depend on that one receiver and you take away that one receiver, that quarterback doesn't look good. And I think sometimes it means you have to divest your resources into multiple pass catchers, which is why I kind of use the pitching rotation analogy. Because you look at the Bengals, because right now the Bengals window right now is until Joe Burrow's extension kicks in whenever he signs it. Because right now Joe Burrow's going to be making what, 50, 51 million a year. Jamar Chase, yeah, like over at least.
I think he'll reset the quarterback market, right? I think he might get more than Mahomes, right?
No. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What else? But yeah, Jamar Chase might get 30 million. T. Higgins, like you got to start. Like they might start losing these weapons, and sure they can go. Like Joe Burrow can make a guy look good, but if they lose a Tyler Boyd, can Joe Burrow make a guy look like Tyler Boyd? Because yes, he can make them look average. Can he make them look above average? That's the ultimate question. And that's why it's like guys like Hayden Hurst is going to be key there. So it's going to be interesting what they do there. Then also some of the other games, the 49ers, Brock Purdy, who looks like a young John Harbaugh. Like if you just see that picture, doesn't he look like John? Like if you age John Harbaugh back to when he was like 25, 26, he looks like young Harbaugh. Like he's done a good job. I think Steve Smith Sr. said something really great, and he basically said this is why scouting sucks, because you essentially focus on all these skills and physical appearance, and what you get is Zach Wilson drafted in the top 5 and Brock Purdy being Mr. Irrelevant, which, by the way, Stephen A. Smith, when he was on First Take, I love the fact that he basically clowned like Cowboys fans saying, you do realize you have been irrelevant from the playoffs for a long time. Oh, by the way, you lost to a guy whose nickname is Mr. Irrelevant. And that was it was really hilarious.
Did you see his epic video too?
Yeah. Yeah, that was but yeah, like that's where but it is the 49ers, that was good. The Giants, no, it's like that was demolishing. But yeah, I mean it's gonna be fun seeing these games are gonna be fun. Are you like, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think Mahomes' his ankle's gonna hurt
them? These are gonna be 2 really good games. Right now, I think the Bengals will win. I'm just not sure how hobbled Mahomes is going to be. And also, the Chiefs need to show that they can beat the Bengals. They've lost to them 3 times in a row. Funny thing, 27-24, 27-24, 27-24 again. It's been the same score 3 times in a row. This game's at Arrowhead. The game earlier this year was in Cincinnati. But, before that, 2 games last season. Actually, no. 2 of them have been in Cincinnati. Excuse me. One of them is at Arrowhead, but the Chiefs blew a 21-3 lead against them. You have to show that you can beat this team. You have not gotten back to the Super Bowl in the last couple of seasons, despite 5 AFC championships in a row, which is very hard to do. But I want to see how hobbled Mahomes is. If he can run a little bit better than he can last week, I like the Chiefs' chances. But with how the Bengals are playing right now, I like them to win this game. Eagles 49ers, I want the 49ers to win because I think that would be an incredible story for Brock Purdy and also, excuse me, Kyle Shanahan, Eddie, because he hasn't been back to the Super Bowl since what happened, obviously. Yeah. But he's been a very good coach, gotten the most out of this team with some mediocre quarterback play at times, but this year Purdy's not been bad. Can they go into a packed house at the Link and beat an Eagles team that has flown through the league this season? No pun intended there. But, that's going to be the big question. I like the Eagles in that, though. Jalen Hurts, when he's on, they're unbeatable. Honestly, right now, if you're picking who wins the Super Bowl, I'm taking the Eagles. I think they're just too good on both sides of the ball. I understand Nick Sirianni totally seems like a total a-hole with the way he acts on the field and off the field, what he says. But there's no doubt he's a really good coach, and he's gotten the most out of this team the last couple of seasons. Just pray for everyone in the city of Philadelphia if they win this game today. It is going to be a bloodbath downtown if they win. I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, it'd be a great year for Philly sports. I mean, with the Phillies, the World Series, the Philly.
What are your thoughts on both games?
I think it's gonna be a lot on Travis Kelce, and well, it's gonna be a lot on Travis Kelce because if the Bengals can slow him down, then I think they got a better chance of winning. I think you're right. They should be favored based on how like Mahomes in status, but yeah, but Mahomes is definitely really good. Mahomes is definitely good. I think he can play through it. Now, it's going to be really interesting if he doesn't have the security blanket. It's not so secure. That's going to be interesting there. I mean, also it was also interesting seeing the amount of trash talking that the Bengals were doing. Look, and I get it. Like it was fine and entertaining when Eli Apple was doing it. And by the way, if the Bengals lose, then Eli Apple is going to get clowned over and over and over again.
I cannot stand him. I've never seen a more mid cornerback talk so much crap for no reason. It's just like that's the reason. The main reason I want the Bengals to lose is because that's all. Like I don't have a dislike for them. I mean, obviously I have a dislike because I'm a Steelers fan, you're a Ravens fan, but they don't have like Montez Burfict or Adam Pac-Man Jones anymore. A lot of their players on that team are pretty likable right now. It's just Eli Apple is just such an ass.
Yeah, no, you're right, and it's like, look, you were one bad season away from being called a bust, and I understand it's this anger. Like they are, I don't like Eli Apple just frustrates me a little bit, but I mean the whole Burrowhead, that's fine. The Cincinnati mayor, that was pathetic. Like that was incredibly pathetic. I am rooting for the Chiefs to win. I don't know if they will win, but I am rooting for the Chiefs to win because if let's be clear, there's I would if the Chiefs win, Cincinnati will take an L that they have not felt since Pete Rose was banned from the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's because of all this buildup of Burrowhead and the Cincinnati mayor and Eli Apple and everything else.
I did see the Burrowhead thing. Oh, yeah, it's risky. It is.
It's like you're poking the bear too much, and I hate that comparison because Andy Reid, but you're if you're poking the bear too much, when it comes to Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes is still really good, and this is what's so sad and pathetic about it. You're making me root for Jackson Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes' wife to be happy. That's how bad it is. When I'm rooting for the Chiefs to win because I like Mahomes, but yeah, like that's kind of so it's gonna be interesting there. The Eagles, 49ers. I mean, Kyle Shanahan needs to go to a Super Bowl and prove he could hold the lead and win a game because Falcons 28-3, the 21-10 lead against the Chiefs a few years ago. He needs to come.
The Rams last year, they had them on the ropes as well.
Yeah, he needs to show in these big games. You are this vaunted offensive wonder boy. Okay, great. You've shown that in the regular season. You now got to finish it. You got to have a trophy because at the end of the day, right now most of the trophies in the Shanahan house belong to his dad, not Kyle. So Kyle I feel like he's kind of like a younger Dusty Baker, right? Or a younger like Dusty Baker type situation or Buck Showalter type situation where they've accomplished a ton, but they don't have the ring. They don't have the championship to prove that how good they are. And I'm rooting for look, this is a Disney movie with Brock Purdy. This is a classic Disney movie. I don't want it to end with a conference with a loss in the championship game. I want to see if Brock Purdy can go from Mr. Irrelevant to winning a Super Bowl. But it's gonna be a tough task. It's going to be really tough against these Eagles. And I mean, I'm just wondering, do you think that people are rooting for Who do you think, because the Eagles and the 49ers have coaches people want for their staffs as either offensive coordinators or head coaches, who do you think most of America is rooting to lose more? Because it could be, because go 49ers, if 49ers lose, the
I don't
team
think
can.
it would be the I don't think that it would be the 49ers because I think everyone wants to see Brock Purdy win. Just because like Mr. Irrelevant, this is a team that hasn't won a Super Bowl since the Steve Young days,
Yeah,
basically. I don't remember
yeah.
the exact year, but I know it's been a long time
Yeah,
since
because they lost to the Ravens, they lost to the Ravens, they lost to the Chiefs. I'm trying to
yeah.
remember the other times they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I knew they played the Ravens and the Chiefs. I just didn't remember the exact year when they last won one. But it's an historic franchise. I think more people would want to see the 49ers win. A lot of people like seeing the Eagles lose just because it's Philly
yeah.
fans. I think more people would get more enjoyment out of that. But
I'm talking about the coaches, through the coaches, because for 49ers have like Slowick and they have maybe someone else, but the Eagles also have Brian Johnson and Kevin Patillo. So do you think teams would be rooting, like, do you think teams in they're not going to say it because they also want to interview a Slowick. They also want to interview some of these coaches. Do you think these teams are going to go in there, some of these fans or some of these executives are going to be rooting for some of these teams to lose in a little bit so they can interview one of these guys faster?
A very good point as well. I think the NFL does not like when coaches accept jobs before their seasons are over. And if the Niners lose today, DeMeco Ryans could be named the head coach as soon as this week down in Houston. So that would also, I think, be really interesting there. But I think the league honestly could fix that as a whole. I think Tony Dungy, and he's been in the news a lot lately, and we're not going to get all into that. Yeah, no. But he did have an interesting situation or scenario where he said, why doesn't the league stop all these candidates from interviewing because they also are deep in a playoff run? And I understand that to a degree because it's just a lot of prep work for interviews and getting your team ready. So maybe they could change that to after the season. But then again, there's probably going to be
you got free agency starting. Yeah, Senior Bowl, you got free agency starting, so it's almost like as soon as the season's over, you gotta construct your staff, get your draft strategy, build your draft board. So it is going to be really tricky there. I mean, personally, I think a lot of it is: are you interviewing the coordinators? Are you interviewing or are you interviewing the assistant coaches? Because I feel like someone like Brian Johnson could take an interview with a team. If he really wanted to, he could take an interview because he's just what is he, the passing game coordinator, the quarterback coach. He's not as important to the day-to-day operations when it comes to game planning in a playoff game that a Steichen would be, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. So do you think that there's a difference between the assistant coaches and coordinators?
Kind of, in a way. I think coordinators it's different just because they're the ones that really help game plan, and the assistant coaches do that as well. But the coordinators, they're doing the prep work, like play calling, watching film and all that stuff. So it's a lot of work for them. And I'm not saying the assistant they do a lot of work as well, but coordinators it's a step above, obviously.
Yeah, so that's the interesting, and I just wanted to bring up that question because with these teams, especially with the NFC teams, two teams from the NFC, because there is that added atmosphere of people want Brian Johnson to be interviewed. They want to interview Brian Johnson, so they want to have that time to interview him. Because it's not because I'm hearing Ravens fans saying, well, maybe they want to interview Slowick or they want to interview whatever. It's like, well, that's great and all, but here's the problem with it: you want to construct that staff as soon as possible, and you got the Lamar situation, you got the receiver situation, you got all these moving pieces. Do you really have the time? And I think that's why it was smart by the Ravens to say, oh, let's go interview the Rams passing game coordinator because we can't interview Slowick. We can probably interview the Rams passing game coordinator. And it's very similar types of resumes there. Or looking at the quarterback coach for the Seahawks and who will be very similar resume to the quarterback coach of the Eagles. So it's one of those. It is just interesting seeing the team hiring practices out there. So we're going to end the show on that note.
Real quickly, who wins today? Who you got to go into the Super Bowl?
I'm going to say who wins. I'm going to say Bengals and Eagles.
I have the same.
Yeah, what I want is 49ers and Chiefs and set up that rematch, but I need to see. I don't think Mahomes. Because Mahomes isn't 100%. I have my doubts, but let me put it this way: I hope Chiefs 49ers, but I think Bengals and Eagles. That's what I think. So
I hope
we're
for
gonna
Chiefs Eagles just because of Andy Reid's revenge against the
yeah.
Eagles, but I think it's going to be Bengals Eagles though.
As long as it's Chiefs versus whoever, that's what I want. But
Yeah, I hear you.
yeah. So we're gonna end the show on that note. We'll be back next week. We're gonna be previewing the we're gonna be recapping these games, and then we're gonna be previewing. We're gonna be doing a brief preview of the Super Bowl, but we're gonna be talking about Virginia Tech basketball and if there's any coordinator news, all that stuff.
Yeah, hope you all enjoyed the game today, and we'll